you make a movie with duct tape, you have to be your own moderator and introduce yourself. So, my name is Ethan Hawke, and I'm here to kind of talk with you guys about the movie and have a little conversation about it if it interests you. I'm so pleased to see a dog here today. It makes it really fun. I love dogs. Okay. So this movie was really born, I'll get us started and just tell you that it was really born out of my friendship with the lead actor, Ben Dickey. He had never acted in a movie before. He'd never acted at all before. But he's an amazing musician, and I was really moved by him as a person. And one night, his band, I'd watched him for more than a decade try to carry this band up a big hill. They're a beautiful band in Philly. He's from Arkansas. And through my friendship with him, I really saw how hard the music industry was. And one night, it was New Year's Eve, and the band had officially died. This about 12 years of work just kind of collapsed in his hands. And they had their ups and their downs, and their almost makes it, and their tough breaks. And he was feeling really sad. He was on my couch, and it was New Year's Eve, and we were a little lit, and I said, well, you remember Blaze Foley? Because he had taught me about Blaze Foley. Over the years, he'd been passing me Blaze Foley songs, and we were both big Townes Van Zandt songs, and Townes Van Zandt fans, John Prine fans, just fans of Guy Clark, all that whole music scene. And I was saying to him, remember Blaze, there's so many amazing artists that don't find a place in the commercial world. And it doesn't mean their work's not of value. And he picked up the guitar and he started playing Clay Pigeons. And I was like, hey, you should play Blaze Foley in a movie. And he laughed and he started. And the drunker I got, the better an idea I thought that was. And I started thinking more and more about it. And because I knew that Ben had a lot to say about music and the blues and life. And I love the idea of a movie about an artist who didn't have commercial success. Every biopic you've ever seen is somehow actually secretly about the trials of celebrity or something. You kind of know all the scenes. This is the moment they get signed. This is the moment their music gets really good. This is the music their ego goes to their head. This is the drug problem. Now rehab, recovery, and Hall of Fame. Isn't it great? And while most of the musicians, actors, directors, artists that I've known have been pretty much met with searing indifference, I thought that Blaze provided an opportunity to tell a different kind of story. And I thought Ben could have something to say about it. In truth, I still didn't have a movie, I just had an idea. And the movie came out of finding Sybil Rosen's book. It's a memoir called Living in the Woods in a Tree. And she and I got along famously, and we started writing this movie. And she's kind of the spirit animal, I call her in the movie. She was our touchstone and our spiritual guide through this whole thing. And my partner. In a lot of ways, I feel like it's her film. But that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And does anybody have any questions for me? Is anything? I can talk for a little while if we want. But sometimes it's fun to have a question. Yeah.
I'm not sure how to phrase this question, but as you were saying, most biopics seem to come from the script about a performer, whereas this film, to me, from a musician standpoint, really seemed to come from inside the song. Yeah. Like the way you have the scenes, that's what was going on in the song. You paint the picture and the sounds that were being recorded in the background, and it's a really lyrical and musical film versus just being a film of words. Can you expand on that?
That's what it is. I call it a gonzo indie country western opera. That's what we were doing. Where does a song come from? That's the alternate title of the movie, right? And we use Blaze's own words to tell his story. I wanted the movie to function like a blues song. The people that Blaze and Townes really love, this music is really built in the back of Lightning Hopkins and Mississippi John Hurt and Blind Willie McTell. And it's written on the back of the blues, right? And real suffering, crimes. This music is born out of, and I thought that could be an amazing thing if I wanted to make a movie about the past, present, future, which is kind of how I experience life. Just, it's like this braid, they're all so completely connected. I love, there's a great Tom Robbins line, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And I've always thought that that's true, and songs are like time portals. You know, they change as you change, but the math of them is the same, the geometry of the music. Whether it's Scott Joplin or the Beatles, you know, like I listen to Scott Joplin when I'm a kid, when my dad's playing on the piano, and it means one thing to me. And then I fall in love and I have my own children and I'm playing, it means another thing to me. And then you know, my marriage fails and then I can't listen to it anymore, you know? And then 10 years go by and I turn it back up again. You know, and it's the same music. But in a way, I thought Blaze's songs could tell his story through, leaping through time. You know, after he's dead, when he first wrote it, when he was playing it and bored of it or lost from it, you know. It could be that was the whole genesis of even casting musicians. You know, Charlie Sexton, for those of you who don't know, Charlie Sexton, who plays Townes Van Zandt, is a world-class musician. You know, he's an amazing musician. And the idea is like, I'm not going to fake the music. The music's going to be, all the music's recorded live in the movie. It's all in camera. You know, it's all messy and sloppy and real. They're really on the porch. Those are really birds saying you can't get them off the track if you tried, you know. And what it allows for is the movies launching out of the music, as you said, which is hopefully a little different. Yeah.
Right. So the whole movie obviously is very emotional, but I find that it's really concentrated in that scene with his father.
Yeah.
Was that something that like organically came about? Did like Sybil give you more insight on that? Because that seemed to me really to be really just ahead. That kind of came early in the movie, but.
Yeah, she's talking about the Chris Christopherson scene, Blaze's father. A lot of ways, for me, you could make a case to be made that the movie's actually about, well, it's about creativity, a lot of it, and a lot of that, in my experience, sometimes has to do with depression. And I think that if Blaze were alive today, you might say he's bipolar, you know. He has one of my favorite lines in country music. It's just one of the best lines ever. I feel so good, I feel so bad, I wonder what I ought to do. And I remember when I heard that line, I just thought, man, isn't that everything? You know? And if you had mental illness in your family, it lives as a kind of fear, if it's real, of when it comes and when it goes and when it renders your life. You know, Sybil told a great story that I love. You know, they really did fall in love in a closet like that, hiding. And the funny thing is he told her right off the bat all his issues. You know, I lost 150 pounds. How? Thorazine. She didn't occur to ask, what's Thorazine? You know, guy's fresh out of an institution. You know? And I didn't want to name it, because once you name it, then that's what it is. You know? We're visiting his father in an institution. His father's clearly got something going on. You know? If you have that, I think it was a fear. The alcoholism and drug abuse stems from self-medication, obviously, and also from a fear of going crazy. You know, especially if you had an abusive father or an abusive situation. And I wanted you just to see the tip of the iceberg. I get kind of allergic to knee-jerk movies that try to psychoanalyze everybody all the time. I wanted you just to experience and live it. And if you know it, you'll recognize it. If you don't, you can think something else that might be just as true. But that, it was so important to the movie to get Chris to play that part, because, you know, who's going to be a legend's father, right? Well, we needed a card-carrying legend. We got one.
It's kind of related to the first question. You've done a lot of really interesting work kind of related to time in the before movies and Boyhood and now this. And was the structure of the movie kind of in the script already, or did you kind of find it in the edit room and post?
You know, he's asking I've been obsessed with time for a really long, that's part of my friendship with Richard Linklater has been one oriented around exploration of using time as clay. You know, you could say that the main character of the Before trilogy. They did these movies before sunrise, before sunset, before midnight. You can say the main character of those movies is time, and definitely the main character of Boyhood is time. You know, I mean, that's the thing. And this movie is me kind of thinking, well, what if they all happened at the same time? You know, I mean, same moment, maybe that's a better word. You know, that these moments are all so interconnected. And yes, I thought a lot about, Rick taught me a lot about cinema. Cinema is instantaneously about time. The theater, for example, is a living organism, right? You're on stage, right now I'm here, you're here, we're breathing, we're all here. It's changing moment to moment. The second you take a picture of something, it's almost instantly nostalgic. Wasn't that beautiful? Oh, look at that. It's already a kind of worshiping of the past. And cinema just loves that. That's kind of what it's about. It's about time. That's Henry Fonda. Look how young he is in that picture, you know? And so it's just the way my brain works, and it was always part of the deal. To answer your question, the first draft of the screenplay I wrote in a couple weeks, and it was about 20 pages long, like a short story. But I wrote it in 3 different color inks, just each, you know, past, present, future, just kind of always dancing. I was trying to replace normal plot. Like, I knew the movie wasn't going to have any plot. You know, I hate plot. It's so annoying. But you need to give people another architecture, so they feel that you're not lost. In this movie, I want to have kind of a circular architecture, like a blues song or something, you know, verse, chorus. We're always going and coming back again, and going and coming back again. But we're always, hopefully, you feel it moving forward. Because if you don't move forward, then it's just, you know, meandering. But so is, you know, Boyhood has a different architecture for time. I mean, for plot. It has no plot, but it has 12 years. It's first grade through 12th grade. You don't really know it, but it's very clear, actually. You know, it starts, he's 6, it ends, he's 18. It's like from your first memory, which is for most of us around first grade, to where most of us travel on the same grid. You know, you could relate, you knew like, oh wow, junior high, I bet high school's gonna be next. You know, and it keeps you on thinking, he's gonna graduate, what's he gonna do when he graduates? You know, I mean, it's tricking your brain into thinking there's a plot. Yeah.
Blaze Foley seems like a difficult guy to be in a relationship with, whether you were married to him or in a band or trying to get him into a car. When you made this movie, you went from being a fan of his to being in a relationship with him, even though he's not literally there. You entered an emotional relationship. Did you think when you were making this movie what he would think of how you were making it, and what do you think he would think of this movie?
It's a great question. I do feel I'm in a relationship with him. I feel it right now. I mean, you know, I showed the movie at my agency the other day, Creative Artists Agency, right in the center of Hollywood. And I remember thinking I was talking to Blaze, like, you never been here, brother. You know, I mean, and I opened the movie in Austin in that exact idea of going back right where he was killed, right where the work happened, and saying thank you to the people who actually made him get into cars and got in fights with him. And through people who loved him, mostly Sybil. Gerf Morlix is in the movie. Gerf Morlix is one of his running buddies. Through people that got in fist fight. Through his sister, was very good to me, gave me the rights to the music, you know. I started seeing him through the people who loved him. Like, you know, if you meet somebody through his best friend, his lover, his sister, and you see, you almost catch a glimpse, you know? And Gerv, who, in the movie, and it's kind of, you know, he's playing the outhouse show. You see the guy with a big white beard and the big white hair. You know what I'm talking about? He's playing bass next to him most of the time when he's in the dive bar. That's Blaze's, you know, one of his last running buddies who's really alive, right? I mean, Townsend's dad, and Gerf was another one of his great friends. And Gerf came and helped Ben learn the songs. And at first he was when I told him I was going to make this movie, he said, why? Well, I think it'd be a good story. Well, there's never been a good music movie made before. Why would you do it? You know? Like, well, I'd like to try. Why? And I thought about it, and I talked to him for a while, and I wrote him a couple long letters, because somehow Sybil had felt it was important to have his blessing and to invite him to set and make him, she just really put a thing on me that it was important. And finally he said, listen, I'll support this. In fact, I'm going to come, and I want to be a part of it. But this is what Blaze would want, is push the music. Make sure the music's good. He would love Ben Gerson, you know. That's a great idea. Don't cast Daniel Day-Lewis or something. You know what I mean? Not that Daniel Day-Lewis is another, but you know what I mean? Like, he loved, you know, Ben is Blaze. There's a lot of Blazes around us. You know, people who are doing great work that nobody sees, you know? So the movie could, he's like, that's a great idea, Gerf said to me. He said, but if you make art, Blaze would like it. You know, you're never going to capture Blaze. You don't make a Wikipedia reenactment. Make art. And if you make art with his music, he would love that. And I do feel like that. I felt like my job was to treat Sybil with respect, you know, and listen to her every day. I'll tell you one, can I tell you one story about that? Okay, because Lord forgive me if you guys can't go with me, but it's the last day of shooting, okay? And I put off everything, the treehouse scenes were last, because I wanted Ben and Al. Ben's, never acted before, and I wanted those to be the most relaxed and the most comfortable, and I wanted to improvise and have fun, and I kept a little notebook of ideas of scenes. I was really going to try to do something that I've never done, which is improvise. I wanted them, they so knew their characters. We built this treehouse, we went in the middle of the woods, and we're going through these things and shooting the scenes. It was going pretty well, and we were getting in, the sun's going down, and it's our last day of shooting, and Sybil came to me, and she said, you can picture, she plays her own mom in the movie. I don't know if you caught that, but, so you can picture her. And she said to me, hey, Ethan, there's a full moon out tonight. Don't you think we could get a picture of them, like maybe howling at the moon? Blaze and I used to howl at the moon. And I was like, that's cute. But I said, it's a little corny. And I've also been acting since I was 13, and I know DPs hate the moon. Because you can't actually photograph. You ever try to take a picture of the moon, right? It looks like a street lamp, right? It blows out, and if it's in focus, you gotta have some macro lens. And we were doing this thing on this movie, we were only shooting with one lens. We wanted to be super unadorned, and I just knew exactly what the DP was gonna say. You can't shoot the moon. You never see it through the trees. It's stupid. And if it's in focus, they're not. No. And so a couple hours go by, and I got a million things to do in Sybil, because I went up on the mountain behind here, and there's a really nice angle on the roof of the treehouse with the moon in it. I think it's really great. And it's like, Sybil, maybe if it's the last, if we get everything else done. And she said, I've never asked you for anything. The whole movie, I've never asked you for anything. I said, okay, let's talk to Steve. Steve's our DP. I knew exactly what he would say. He said, Sybil, I don't know the right, I have to change lenses. I don't even have lenses. It's never going to photograph. She said, would you please walk up to the top of the hill and look down at the moon on the roof of the treehouse? It's very beautiful, and I think you could photograph. So Steve and I are like, okay, hold on, everybody. And we go up there, and Steve goes, it's a nice shot. Let's do it. So I'm like, all right, for fuck's sake. There's so many things I want to do. Right? I'm like, all right. And I go to Ben and Alia, and I'm sure that, look, guys, it's not my idea. Sybil thinks it'd be cute if you guys howled at the moon from the roof. And I know it's kind of dopey, but and Ben was like, that sounds awesome. And Ali's like, oh, on the roof? Yeah, let's go. And I'm like, Ben weighs about 19,000 pounds, okay? And I'm like, just be careful, and so they climb up there, and I'm sitting there, we're getting ready, and Sybil's just like, this means so much to me, place, and I used to howl at the moon all the time. And I'm like, yeah, great. And they're on the roof there, and they start howling at the moon, and I shit you not, from the woods was a howl back, an answer. And I said when she said, "I knew he was here." And it was so beautiful. So I did feel I had a relationship happening. I don't understand it. I don't have a name for it. But there was a certain blessing that I think his creativity and his songs brought everyone who worked. Nobody got paid or anything, you know. So you can tell by my fancy Q&A. They were, people came together because of the music. Do I have time for, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say you've been in a number of incredible Richard Linklater films, and what was it like directing him for a change, and how has working with him influenced you as a director?
Well, he's asking me about Richard Linklater, and his influence on me is huge and profound and unknowable. The methodology that created before movies in boyhood is something that is a big part of who I am and the way I think, and he is, you know, it's impossible for me to separate. I have no idea. You know, I was 25 when I first worked with him. He was making his third film. We've grown up together, you know, and I have long conversations. We've had a million movies that we tried to get made that we didn't get made. You know, so there's so much work that we've spent together. Directing him was fascinating. I had this really brilliant idea when my wife was our producer, and she was doing a really great job. She's really amazingly organized and everything, but she's relatively inexperienced. You know, I've been making movies since I was 13, and this is her second movie. She produced a documentary, and she just came to me one afternoon. We're in this restaurant, and she's got out the spreadsheets, and she's like, "Ethan, we've got to cut this budget." And like, "Can you cut this?" I'm like, "No." "Can you cut that?" "No." "Can you cut this?" "No." I said, "You know what? I know what we can cut. The script supervisor. I hate script supervisors. You know, my whole life they've been telling me when to pick up the napkin, when to put down the pen. I said, I'm the best at matching. I said, I'm so good at matching. You wouldn't even. I was like Trump. I'm the best. So I'm like. She's like, "Okay, well, that would really say, you really don't need, why does every movie before that's ever been made have a script?" I don't know, but we're creating a revolution. And that person is cut, that 15 grand's going here, hot damn, right? So, lo and behold, I'm feeling pretty good about this, and I'm matching away, and I'm good at matching, and Linklater comes on set, it's about halfway through the shoot, and he's ready, and we're shooting a scene, he goes, "Hey man, I want to talk to the script supervisor." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, you can just ask me." No, you're busy, I want to talk to scripting. I'm like, Rick, I had this cool idea, I cut that. And he was like, "What are you going to do when you edit the film?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm so good at matching. You know me, man. I'm Captain Match. It's like, that's not all they do. What do you think they keep in their notebook for? Not matching? No, it's notes for the editor about what scene numbers, which corresponding angles. It's for the editors. You know, it's their go-to book. I'm like, oh. And he's like, "You know, the script supervisor movie, this movie took forever to edit. Forever. It was like, man, go to film school." I learned from, Hearsay University. And that was my punitive moment. So, one last one? Who's got a good one? Yeah?
I want to ask you about that jacket with the cross on the back.
Yeah.
Was that based on something you wore?
Yeah, there's a documentary you can see that this guy Kevin Triplett made about Blaise Foley. That he worked so hard on this documentary, and Blaise is often called the duct tape messiah because as the years progressed, he really basically became homeless at the end of his life, and he would, it was during the 80s and people were into silver tip boots and so he would put duct tape on. He had a duct tape Nike swoosh on his cowboy boots, and his pants and jacket were pretty much held together with duct tape, and he had a big kind of duct tape cross on his back that his was different, but yeah, he was called the duct tape messiah, and so he used to sleep in dumpsters. In Austin, the dumpsters are BFI dumpsters, and he said they stood for Blaise Foley inside. He was welcome in anyone. Listen, you guys, guess what the advertising budget for this movie is? $1 me, right here, right now. Okay, so if you like it, tell your friends. If you don't, please don't tell them. And thanks for coming here today. Have a great Saturday.